Hi everyone. Today I want to return to my series of films from 1973, 50 years ago. What were films like then? How did we look at them? How did I look at them? I was actually there watching these films in 73. What do they look like now? And today I want to talk about a film that was one of the most successful films in 1973, to be sure. And this is Serpico. And this is starring Al Pacino, directed by Sidney Lumet. This is the Kino Lorber recently released UHD combo in Blu-ray. And Serpico is based on a true story, very big story, especially if you live in New York City or around New York City, as I did in this era. It's a story about corruption that is institutionalized. It's a real life story. Frank Serpico was a real life officer. We see him in the beginning, Al Pacino in the beginning, playing Frank Serpico, shot. He's in the back of a police car, and then we go back to see the events that led to this shooting. And Serpico is, we see him in his police career goes from 59 to 72, and we see him in his graduation day from the police academy. He's idealistic. He as most police officers may have been, probably were. He wanted to make a difference. He wanted to help people. But he soon discovers that graft is pervasive throughout the New York City Police Department. And the police would have sort of like the money man who would go and pick up money in order for the police department to protect their criminal activities. And then it would be spread throughout the precinct. Everybody gets a share of the money. And but Serpico doesn't want it. I don't want money, and he sees the law clearly, and sort of, you breaking the law, you're not breaking the law. To the officers, it was like hazardous duty pay. They had a dangerous job, and they really, they could convince themselves to talk themselves into justifying it. But Serpico was unable to do that, which made him a marked man, because you just don't do it. This is a fraternity, the Fraternal Order of Police. There are certain conventions of the tribe of which Serpico is now belonging to, and your devotion to your fellow officers would be doubted. So, and Serpico not only discovers this graft, but he discovers that his higher-ups, even though they're sympathetic, they don't seem to want to do anything about it. So it goes on for a long time. And you wonder, you have to wonder, why, because Serpico's life is on the line, why does he do this? Why doesn't he just quit? But he was an unusual character. And we get a sense of that in the supplements. I've never read Peter Moss's book, but from what we learn in the supplements, Serpico was a different kind of guy. He really believed in the law. And all this, as I say, plays out in New York City. And we have a director, a New York City director, who knows the city like the back of his hand, and Sidney Lumet. So we see the locations. It was all shot on location. Only his apartment, Serpico's apartment, was on a soundstage. Everything else, interiors, exteriors, were all filmed on location, and Lumet was very good at finding exactly the location that would fit the mood of the scene. And he's also very good, Lumet, at stories about mavericks who are fighting against the system. And Lumet has said that he saw Serpico as sort of a chastisement of Dirty Harry, where the bureaucracy was overwhelming. The police department was corrupted because they were too soft on crime. The police department was too responsive to the liberal tendencies of the time, and criminals were getting away with breaking the law. And so Dirty Harry had to take the law into his own hands, which was a big thing in 1970s movies. But Serpico is different, because Serpico actually believed in the law. He believed in the institution. His idea was not to go out on his own, but rather to reform the institution of which he was working for. And it's told in a series of anecdotes covering a long space of time. You don't get a sense of as much time as, I guess that would be about 13 years as far as the real life Serpico is. So the characters are, we don't see a lot of all the characters, and there's lots of characters here, but they're cast with such great faces and such great New York-looking people, and a lot of them came out of the New York theater, and a lot of them were actors that you glance in very small, moments, and some of them only have like maybe one line. And these include people like Kenneth McMillan, Judd Hirsch, Tony LoBianco, F. Murray Abraham, M. Emmett Walsh. But there's also many other characters in here that you're going to know by their faces because they become part of the TV landscape of police stories, especially stories that would be set in New York City. And so we have a great story of the Maverick fighting against the system. And a great depiction of New York City in circa 1973. But really, this film is all about Al Pacino. This is, I think this may be my favorite Al Pacino performance. And he really was, in 1973, he really wasn't a big star yet. He had made a couple films before The Godfather. In The Godfather, he got noticed for sure, but The Godfather ended up being more Marlon Brando's movie. So there was a big buzz. What was this actor really going to be like, Al Pacino? What would how would he evolve as an actor? And then we get to see him in Serpico, and it's just such a marvelous performance. And he got to know Frank Serpico, Al Pacino, and Pacino invited Serpico back to his house. He spent a lot of time with him. He didn't want to do an imitation of Frank Serpico, but he wanted to get a sense of who Serpico was. And Serpico was a very mischievous man and a very unusual man. He was interested in a lot of things. This was the age of the counterculture, and he was sympathetic to the counterculture. When he's in plain clothes, he goes into all kind of different costumes. He's a rabbi, he's a butcher, in order to try to catch thieves. And there's a party scene. He has two romantic involvements within this movie, and one of them is a ballet dancer, and so he goes to a Greenwich Village party, and they ask him, what do you do? I'm a policeman. Neanderthal, but Frank Serpico was not a Neanderthal, so he knew how to talk about art, literature. But basically, it's his eyes. I think Pacino, especially at this time of his career, he just used his eyes so magically. He listened to people. There was such intensity to him. It's such life in his eyes. And he's good at playing this sort of martyr kind of character. It's kind of Jesus in his long beard, it's kind of Jesus Christ kind of, if I have to die, it's going to be worth it. And he's still with us. Frank Serpico, as far as I know, he's 87 years old, I believe, and still with us. There was a documentary, I think around 2017, that he participated in that I do remember seeing. And I think he went to live in Switzerland. I think he's back living in the U.S. today. Now there's a commentary here by Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, Nathaniel Thompson, and they are, I just listened to one of their commentaries from Marathon Man, which was really good, and Steve Mitchell, I think, is the one who's really knowledgeable of the locations that were used in the filming, both of Marathon Man and of Serpico, and Lumet did cheat a little bit, but like he's in the Bronx, but Lumet didn't like the actual location of where this particular event occurred that they're filming. So, but back in the meatpacking area, well, there's this great building. So And one of the commentators, I forget which one it was, who dominates this trio of commentators. They've done a lot. He really oversells a little bit, oversells the film, which always bothers me a little bit. But there's so much great information here, so I do recommend the commentary. That's the only new element of this release, the commentary. There's other supplements that were from, say, 2005, maybe a little bit earlier than that, with the interviews with Lumet, with the producer, and so you get an idea of how the film developed. It was a very low-budget movie. It was it had to be shot very fast because the initial production was going to be directed by John Avildsen. He clashed with Martin Bregman's idea of what Bregman wanted to be a character study movie rather than a broader study of the Knapp Commission, which was the commission that investigated police corruption in New York. So they brought in Lumet, who had a reputation for being able to shoot really fast, and Lumet describes it in the supplements how fast we had 3 setups in 3 different locations in exterior in one day, day one. So everybody was on their toes. I think they had to start shooting in the beginning of July. Dino De Laurentiis, who was the executive producer, said, we're coming out, we're having a Christmas release. So they had to edit as they went along. And Dee Dee Allen, who edited many of Sidney Lumet's movies, she would actually take the footage from whatever they shot during the day and started synchronizing the sound and starting the whole editing process, because they couldn't wait till they were done shooting. And Dee Dee Allen is just a fantastic editor and one of the most famous editors of all time. And she has a real knack for knowing just when a scene should end. When sometimes scenes will drag on a little bit too much, and then she was very good at the transition from one scene to the next. So, so as I said, the supplements here have a lot of interviews. They talk about the look of the film. I forgot to write down the cinematographer's name, but Sidney Lumet was going for. He didn't want the movie to be real colorful, so it doesn't look drab, but he wanted to sort of de-emphasize the color. So now this is in Dolby Vision, so in UHD Dolby Vision, and you want to get that because you want to see colors pop. That's why you have UHD, so everything is popping. But it looked great to me. I mean, the clarity, the colors, the dark scenes. To me, it looked absolutely terrific. Again, I have untutored eyes, but I think I pretty much are part of. My eyes are probably average to most of the people that are going to watch SERPICO. But I did want to just comment briefly, because the commentary is on both the UHD and the Blu-ray, and both of them are from a new 4K scan or restoration. So this is a new Blu-ray too, because I understand I'd never seen the older Blu-rays that were from Studio Canal, I believe. But I know they were criticized from some of the research I did. But I got to tell you, when I listened to the commentary and watched the Blu-ray, I mean, it's one of the best Blu-rays I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is just so kudos to Kino Lorber for this. Putting out this film in such superb shape. And so, if you're a fan of Al Pacino, this is, I mean, I'm sure you already have this, but if you want to see it in UHD, you want to see this new restoration, which whether you watch it in Blu-ray or UHD, I think you're going to be very impressed by it. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. Take care.